In this demo, I'll show you how to do some sort of like teleportation using a magic word or a teleportation spell. I think the first adventure game had one of these. So what I've done here is I've just created a simple map. I have 3 rooms. The player starts out in the narrow passage, which is lit, and the narrow passage goes north to a large chamber, which is also lit. And the description of the large chamber is, this is a large chamber with an exit to the south. Written on the north wall is the word boom. And what we'll do is if the player types the word boom in the large chamber, it'll teleport them somewhere else. So really what we have to do is just add boom as a verb. Should work out fine. So when we teleport the player, we're going to put the player in the treasure chamber, and which is also lit. And in the treasure chamber, I've put a jewel-encrusted sword, which is portable. So now if I run this, launch player. Okay, so now if I go north, now I'm in the large chamber. If I type boom, nothing happens, of course. But there we are. That's our environment. We can kind of go north and south here. So what I'm going to do to make this teleportation spell work is go to verbs, and my verb tab, I will add boom as a verb. So now, if I run this, I don't follow you. So it recognizes if the verb boom, we just haven't hooked up any actions to it. If we hadn't added the verb boom, it would say, I don't recognize the verb boom. So at least now it is recognizing boom. Now what we need to do is add a function to handle boom. So I will make a function called boom. And click add. And now what I'll do is I'll check to see where the player is. If the player is in the large chamber, I'll teleport the player to the treasure chamber. If the player's in the treasure chamber, I will teleport them back to the large chamber. Otherwise, nothing will happen, right? So there's those 3 cases. I teleport the player one place, or the other place, or nothing happens. So let's go back to our function. So let's check to see where the player is. So that's an if statement. If, tab, tab. Now how do I test if the player is in the large chamber? So that's the player's location property. I could type out player.location, but it's easier just to type pl tab tab dot l tab tab. That expands to location. Is the large chamber. Now how do you know that it's the underscore there? If I go back here, when you add an object, all the spaces get replaced with underscores. So that's the kind of internal name of that room. So if the player's in the large chamber, I will print the line. I'll print something here. How do I print a line of text? PR, tab, tab, expands to print line. Poof. And then let's say, what do we want to say here? Something, like you spins for a second or something like that. All right, so you can, and what you do here, what you type is really up to you. So now how do we change the player's location? So now we're going to print poof, the world spins for a second. Or how about the second comma, then stops. Perfect. Okay, now what we want to do is move the player to the treasure chamber. So how do we change the player's location? Well, that's the same thing, player.location, except now we're going to use one equal sign, right? So double equal sign is for comparing, single equal sign is for assigning. So we're going to set the player's location equal to the treasure chamber here. Function, treasure chamber, semicolon. So when so this function says, hey, if the player's location is the large chamber, print poof, the world spins for a second, then stops, and then puts the player in the treasure chamber. And then once we're there, in order to let the player know that they're there, we want to run the look command, because that will print out the description of the room that we are now in. So now if I run this game again, nothing will happen because there's one missing piece. If I type launch player, second type boom, nothing, I don't follow you, boom, I don't follow you. we need a sentence. So a sentence ties a verb or a set of words, a set of inputs, to a function. So I'm going to go to sentences here, and I'll say if the verb is, are these alphabetized now? I thought I had these alphabetized. If the verb is boom, then and there's, so they just type boom. There's no first object preposition or second object. Then I want to call my boom function, and I'll leave that set to instead and click add. So now when I type the verb boom, it's going to call my boom function here. So test. So nothing happened. That makes perfect sense because we didn't handle the case where we're in the narrow passage. Now we're in the large chamber. If I type boom, poof, the world spins for a second, then stops. Now we're in the treasure chamber. This is a circular chamber with no obvious exits. There is a jewel-encrusted sword here. Probably jewel-encrusted sword should have been like lowercase. Oh, there we go. It's not a proper noun. There we go. All right. I'll save that. So our function says if the player's location is the large chamber, do this. Now how do we get the player back from the treasure chamber to the large chamber? So let's do an else if. I think we can do EI tab expands to else if. Player's location, PL tab dot L tab double equals the treasure chamber. Then let's just copy all this. And if you're wondering, oh no, we got the same sentence in there twice, that's not efficient. Don't worry, Lantern figures that all out, and will not. You won't waste space by printing out the same string constant twice. So if the player's location is a treasure chamber, print poof, and then let's put the player back in the large chamber. There we go. So let's run this again. File, save, test. Okay, north. Boom. Now we're in the treasure chamber. Take sword. Nice. Boom. Poof. The world spins for a second, then stops. Now we're back in the large chamber, right? So we can teleport between these two locations. But what if we were back in that narrow passage and I type boom, nothing happens? Why is that? This should never happen. Your game should never let this happen. Well, because if we're not in the large chamber and we're not in the treasure chamber, we don't have a case for that. We haven't handled that third case. And the third case is we're not in either of these two places. So let's have a case to handle that. Nothing happens. There we go. File, save. All right, so let's test it. Nothing happens. North, large chamber, boom. Take the sword. Boom. Now we're back in the large chamber. South. Boom. Nothing happens. There you go. So that's how to do like a magic word teleportation spell. Now, magic words can be problematic. It's just, as long as the game tells hints to the player what the magic words are, or those magic words can be found somewhere in the game, you are okay. However, it is, if you don't do magic word puzzles appropriately, and then it could be easy to create a situation where the player has to guess some word that they'd never come up with on their own. So if you're going to do a magic word puzzle or something, the game should definitely hint the player toward what that magic word might be. So there you go. There's how to do the classic teleportation spell adventure game puzzle.